So I apologize for this. I am going to make you feel very old for a second, but the video for the infamous video for was is that how you pronounce it? Is it?
Yes,
Yes.
beautifully done.
It occurred to me. I was like, I've never actually said this out loud. But the video for that was on our version of MTV Rage. Early in the mornings, and it was one of my earliest memories because I would have been about seven in 1993.
Oh
So
my.
the vision, I rewatched it recently, and the whole thing about the school play, I was like, oh my God, it was that. And November Rain by Guns N' Roses. For some reason, I just, those little snippets of things that you remember from when you were a kid, and you're like, oh, wow.
Ah,
So yes, I apologize.
that's all
Hey,
right.
so I was reading up about your history, and I saw that you were actually in a car accident in 2000. Um, what happened, and what were the kind of consequences of it? Because I've heard that you
Well,
have back problems.
I was driving on a highway that was like a back road in the middle of nowhere in Nova Scotia, and I had just bought this car. It was a Cadillac. I got it for $1,000. It was like a 1980s Cadillac, and by the time I bought it, it was in the late 90s or 2000. I guess it was 2000. So it was an older car, and it was a big body, and I just didn't know that it wouldn't take curves well on a highway. And I went around a corner, and I thought I was going the right speed, and my car flipped, and I landed in a culvert next to the road, and um, I looked down and I saw that my arm was broken. And the next thing I knew, a paramedic who happened to live nearby, unbelievably, showed up. He had heard the car wreck from his house, and he helped me out of the car, but not before he said to me, "Well, boy, she's going to blow." And he got me onto the meridian of the highway, and then my car blew up and burnt to nothing. It was right out of a movie. I came that close to dying. A pretty gruesome death.
So what is that would have a pretty profound, I think, psychological effect. Did that take you a while to kind of get over?
To be totally honest with you, it did not. It it's only really occurred to me in retrospect that I might not have got out of the car fast enough without outside assistance in order to, get away from the explosion. At the time, I just thought, wow, that was close. But it never real. I didn't go through any sort of, psychological trauma over it, which might just be repression for all I know.
So this lineup first reunited in 2017, to my understanding. Um,
Yeah.
so how did that? So you've been the sole consistent member throughout the band's existence. How did this come about? This lineup first reforming?
How did our original lineup come about? Is that your
Oh yeah,
question?
as in how did this kind of how reuniting as the original lineup? How did that come about?
Oh, how did that come about? I'm sorry. Okay, I understand now. Um, Back in what did you say it was? 2017 or
I believe
2019?
so.
Okay.
That's Wikipedia. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's right, and we'll just run with that for now. We were invited to play with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, and it was a good paying gig, and we hadn't played it in a long time, and so I called up the band to see if they wanted to do it, and they were all intrigued by that. And then when we were done the gig, I asked them if they wanted to keep doing it, and they were into it. So a band was born again, as it were.
What was it like? What has it been like making music together again?
It's been great. It's there's a lot less pressure on me these days than there was when we were younger and first taking off. The amount of press that you do in order to promote a record like that is enormous. And of course, being the front man, that lot fell to me. So I was constantly exhausted when we were on the road in the past. Whereas now, I do my press in advance of the tours, just like we're doing now. And that way, when I get to where we're going, I can, do my job at a sane pace.
Yeah. I think at this stage in life, it's like no, you can afford to just say no, bugger off. I'm tired.
Yeah.
So the success of God Shuffled His Feet, would have been pretty significant for you guys. Like, why did Crash Test Dummies not come back to Australia after 1992? Because the album went platinum here. Did we scare you off?
No, no, we toured around the world. Well, and by around the world, I mean that we toured around North America and Europe and the UK extensively on that record to the point where I just got to the stage where I had to say, listen, I am too tired to do this anymore. You got to let me go back off the road, recuperate, and write another record because I've had it.
Mm.
And at that point, we still hadn't toured South America or Australia or in any number of other markets that were out a little more far flung. And that's the reason.
Yeah, fair. So, what I was looking at the sales figures for that album, and I saw that you went double platinum in Norway. I don't know why that struck me as unusual, but just like Norway in particular, wow, this apparently really like Crash Test Dummies. What do you make of that? Why did the
Well,
Norwegians dig you so much?
we went double platinum in so many markets and even more than double platinum. So that doesn't strike me as unusual as perhaps it strikes you.
Yeah. I thought it might have been sympathy. They might have been sympathetic for your winters.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I wish I thought of that.
I recently interviewed Jeff Martin from the Tea Party, and he lives down here now. And I asked him why he moved, and he was like, "Look, I love Canada, but if I can go spend my life without having to do another one of those winters, I'll be."
Yes. Yep. No, I don't blame him.
What would you like? How would you describe the music scene in Winnipeg when you first were first starting?
Well, I tapped into a scene that was based around the Blue Note Cafe, which happened to be run by my old next door neighbor. And they had sort of an open stage where, if you were willing to play for free, you could play. And so my idea with Crash Test Dummies was while I was going to university, I thought I would, spice up my weekends by playing in a cover band. And that's what we were. It was a cover band. We covered things like Gilligan's Island's theme song and I'm 18 by Alice Cooper. And it was a wacky set list, but it was a cover band. And then the brother of the guy who opened the Blue Note, who also, of course, lived next door to me when I was a kid, um, he opened up a bar called the Spectrum, and he had a lot of local acts there, and we were the first act to play there. So that was the scene when I was in Winnipeg.
Okay. What is some? I mean, you're talking to an Australian. A lot of, particularly Americans have uh, a lot of Australian cliches in your head. You know that we ride kangaroos and wrestle crocodiles and stuff. And I wonder what are some Canadian cliches that you know of that you might live up to?
Cliches about Canada. Well, I
Yeah,
do say A,
yeah,
and I have been known to drink beer. I think, there's a brand of beer called Canadian. It's being made by Molson. I hate to give them this advertising by talking about them, but they came up with an ad campaign a number of years ago called that was based around the tagline "I am Canadian," and it was the only time I can remember that Canada actually seemed to take on a certain level of patriotism. It was like we finally had a tagline and something to rally around, which is beer. So I think I can live up to that cliche.
that's fair. There's a strange one for Australia that Foster's beer.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it gets marketed overseas as
it does.
the Australian beer. Nobody drinks that shit here. Like there
Oh,
is
is that right?
literally, it's not in any bar I've ever been to. But it's
Really?
this weird thing where it's marketed overseas as it's the Australian beer, and it's like
Yeah, I think it's even
really
got a
isn't.
kangaroo on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lies.
And it comes in these great big cans that are like oversized.
Yeah, yeah. Again, no, not a thing. We are a nation of alcoholics, but not that. No, I don't drink a lot. Um, Here's a silly one for you. Is Canada America's hat or is America Canada's underpants?
I think Canada's definitely America's hat. We very much live in the shadow of America, and it can be really quite pathetic at times.
Any, you've you're known for your baritone voice, and whenever I think of someone with a baritone voice, there's this part of my brain that always thinks, man, puberty must have hit him like a ton of bricks. Like most people's voice drops like one or two octaves. Yours must have just gone, oomph. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember my voice changing early, and I was able to impersonate teachers and get the class to do my bidding by just putting on their voice when they weren't in the room.
How did you uh, first get into music and sing? Like, when did you discover that you had a decent singing voice?
Well, it wasn't until my 20s that I even tried to sing because I had always fancied myself a guitar player. And I really had no intention of singing in a band. But when I started writing songs, I found that the singers that I hired to do the singing just weren't singing the songs the way I heard them in my head. And so I became a singer by default.
Oh, fair. Did you? I understand. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That Kiss was a big inspiration for you. Like that's why you started learning guitar. Is that true?
Well, when I was 11 and 12 years old, Kiss were a big influence. I grew out of them pretty quickly. But yeah, they definitely had something to do with me wanting to play the guitar, although my interest in playing guitar predates Kiss,
Yeah. What
or at
was
least
some?
my at least predates my encounter with Kiss.
Okay. What would you say are some of the albums that had a really profound impact on you?
Almost anything by XTC. Um, let's see. The first album I ever bought was Elton John's Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboys. Have you heard that one?
I'm not an Elton John expert, but I know of his legacy. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great record. That was important to me when I was young. And let's see, when I was young, I was also very into Rush 2112, which was a record they put out back in I can't remember if it was the late 70s or the early 80s. I think it was the late 70s, but don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. There's Rush freaks out there that are probably reaching for their dials
Yeah,
or
never
whatever
upset a
people
prog
reach
nerd.
for now.
they'll be angrily typing as we speak.
Yes, exactly.
So, what can you tell me about the set that you're bringing to Australia?
Well, we lean pretty heavily into the God Shuffle the Feet repertoire because it is a tour celebrating that record. And we'll play most, if not all, of the songs on that one. And then a sprinkling of songs from our other records, including a song we put out just this year called Sacred Alphabet, which we play live, and oddly enough, which gets um, great applause. I, usually new material kind of goes over like a lead balloon, but it seems to do well, so we play it anyhow.
Nice. Brad, thank you very much for your time, mate. I'm yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing you. So have a great day,
Thank
all right? I'll see you
thank
in.
you so much, and thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Have a great day.
All right, you too,
See ya.
man.